Welcome to my Channel Deep Sleep Mission-DSM. As we begin, I would be delighted if you could share your location in the comments below. It's truly inspiring to witness how far this content travels and to connect with viewers from across the world. They found Marcus's tent 3 miles off the trail, empty, sleeping bag still warm. His boots lined up perfectly outside like he'd just stepped away for a moment. But Marcus had been missing for 6 days. I know because I was the one who found it, and I know why he disappeared. You see, there are rules on the Appalachian Trail after dark. Rules they don't print in the guidebooks. Rules that veteran thru-hikers whisper about in shelters when newcomers aren't listening. Rules that sound crazy until you've spent enough nights out there, hearing things that shouldn't exist, seeing shadows that move wrong. Marcus didn't believe in the rules. Neither did I, once. Before I tell you what happened, before I explain why I'll never hike alone after sunset again, I need you to understand something. What you're about to hear isn't some campfire story. This happened 4 weeks ago, and if you're planning to hike the AT, especially if you're thinking about night hiking, you need to listen. Really listen. Because the trail doesn't forgive ignorance, and neither do the things that watch us from the dark. Now, the story begins. My name's Jake Morrison. I'd been on the Appalachian Trail for 3 weeks when I met Marcus at the Fontana Dam Shelter in North Carolina. April in the Smokies. Cold nights, misty mornings, and that constant feeling of being watched that every hiker knows but nobody talks about. Marcus was loud. California loud. The kind of guy who played music from his phone speaker while hiking, posted everything on Instagram, treated the trail like it was just another backdrop for his social media life. 26 years old, software developer from San Jose, doing the trail to find himself after a bad breakup. I was sitting by the shelter's fire ring, cooking my freeze-dried mac and cheese, when old Tom shuffled over. Tom had been hiking these mountains for 40 years. Leather skin, clouded eyes, and a way of moving that made you think he was part of the forest itself. "Your friend's gonna learn the hard way," Tom muttered, nodding toward Marcus, who was setting up his tent 50 yards from the shelter, alone, away from everyone else. "He's not my friend," I said. "Just met him today." Tom spat tobacco juice into the fire. "Well, someone should tell him the rules." "What rules?" That's when Tom looked at me, really looked at me, and I felt something cold crawl up my spine. "You really don't know?" He leaned closer. His breath smelled like coffee and something else. Something earthy and old. "How long you been out here, son?" 3 weeks. "And you've been hiking after dark?" "Sometimes, when I need to make miles." Tom shook his head slowly. "You're lucky. Damn lucky. But luck runs out on this trail." He pulled out a worn notebook from his pack. The pages were yellowed, covered in cramped handwriting. Some entries were in pencil, some in pen, some looked like they'd been written by different hands entirely. "These are the rules," he said. "Real hikers know 'em. Pass 'em down. Started back in '74 when that group from Duke University disappeared near Klingman's Dome. All 6 of them, gone. They found their gear set up perfect, like they'd just walked away." I wanted to laugh. Wanted to tell Tom he was full of it. But something in his eyes, and the way the other hikers in the shelter had gone quiet, made me listen. "Rule number 1, Tom said. Never whistle after sunset. Ever. Whistling calls them." "Calls what?" "Don't know. Don't want to know. But I've heard the whistling answered from the woods. Heard it getting closer, and the folks who whistle back," he shrugged. "They don't make it to morning." Marcus laughed from his tent. He'd been listening. "You guys actually believe this stuff? Come on, it's 2025, not 1825. Tom didn't even look at him, just kept reading. Rule number 2. If you hear your name called from the woods at night, don't answer, don't even look. They can mimic voices, sound exactly like people you know, people you trust, but it's not them. Rule number 3. Never follow the lights. You'll see them sometimes, soft, blue-white lights floating between the trees. They look friendly, warm, like they're guiding you somewhere safe. They're not. I was writing these down in my own journal now, not because I believed them, but because Tom's conviction was unsettling. Rule number 4. If you find a door in the woods, a door that shouldn't be there, standing alone with no building around it, don't open it. Don't even touch it. Walk away, fast. A door? Marcus called out. Just a random door in the middle of the forest? Seen 3 myself, Tom said quietly. Once near Blood Mountain, once outside of Waynesboro. Once, he paused. Once I saw someone open one. We found him 3 days later. He was alive, but different. Wouldn't say what he saw, wouldn't talk at all. Just sat there, staring at nothing, drawing the same symbol over and over in the dirt. His family had to come get him. Last I heard, he was in some psychiatric facility in Richmond. The shelter had gone completely silent now. Even Marcus had stopped laughing. Rule number 5, Tom continued. If you wake up and your tent is surrounded by footprints that weren't there when you went to sleep, don't leave the tent until sunrise, no matter what you hear, no matter what you smell, no matter how much you need to pee. You wait. And the last rule, rule number 6, if everything goes quiet, if even the insects stop making noise, if the very air seems to hold its breath, you run. You don't look back, you don't grab your gear, you just run. Run until the sounds come back, because the silence means something's hunting. Tom closed his notebook. Those are the main ones. There are others, little things, but those 6 will keep you alive. Marcus unzipped his tent and walked over. This is hazing, right? You guys do this to all the newbies? Try to scare us with some Blair Witch nonsense? Tom stood up slowly, his knees popping. Believe what you want, boy. But I've been hiking this trail since before you were born. I've seen 17 people disappear, really disappear. Not lost, not injured, just gone. And every single one of them broke the rules. He started walking toward his tent, then stopped. Oh, and one more thing. The rules get stronger near the old places. The power spots. Klingman's Dome, Mount Katahdin, Blood Mountain, Charlie's Bunyan. Those places, the veil is thinner there. Be extra careful. That night, I barely slept. Not because I believed Tom's stories, but because around 2 a.m. I heard whistling from the woods. Clear, melodic whistling. Like someone was out there, just beyond the tree line, trying to get our attention. And then, God help me, I heard Marcus whistle back. Nothing happened that night. Marcus was fine at breakfast, laughing about the crazy old man and his rules. He made a show of whistling while he packed up his tent. Some of the other hikers looked uncomfortable, but nobody said anything. We ended up hiking together that day. Not by choice, really, but we were both heading north at roughly the same pace. Marcus talked constantly about his ex-girlfriend, his job, his plans to thru-hike the Pacific Crest Trail next year. Normal stuff. It was almost enough to make me forget about Tom's warnings. Almost. We made good time through the Smokies, hitting Klingman's Dome just as the sun was starting to set. The observation tower was closed for repairs, but the view was still spectacular. Orange and purple sky stretching for miles, mountains fading into blue shadows, and that peculiar stillness that comes with elevation. We should night hike, Marcus said. Full moon tonight. We could make it to Double Spring Gap Shelter, get ahead of the bubble. The bubble was the crowd of hikers who all started around the same time. Getting ahead meant quieter shelters, better campsites. I don't know, man. These trails get tricky in the dark. Come on, where's your sense of adventure? I wanted to mention Tom's rules, wanted to remind him about the whistling, but in the fading daylight with other day hikers around, it seemed ridiculous. We were two grown men, experienced hikers. What were we afraid of? So we kept walking. The first hour was fine. The moon was bright enough that we barely needed our headlamps. The trail was clear, well marked. We made good time, passed a few other night hikers. Normal, safe. Then we reached a section of trail I didn't recognize from the maps. It should have been a simple stretch between two gaps, but the path split. Not a normal trail junction, just a fork that shouldn't have existed. "Which way?" Marcus asked, checking his phone's GPS. "This is weird. The trail should be straight here." Both paths looked equally worn. Both had white blazes, the AT's trail markers. But that was impossible. The Appalachian Trail doesn't fork. It's one continuous path. "Left looks more traveled," I said, though I wasn't sure why I thought that. We went left. 20 minutes later, we realized our mistake. The trail had narrowed to almost nothing, overgrown with rhododendron that grabbed at our packs. Our GPS showed us somehow parallel to the AT, but not on it. We should have been able to bushwhack the 100 yards back to the main trail. But when we tried, we just found more rhododendron, impenetrable walls of it. "This doesn't make sense," Marcus kept saying, spinning his phone around trying to get a better signal. That's when we heard it. A whistle, clear and melodic, just like the night before. But this time, it was playing a tune I recognized. Amazing Grace. Slow, mournful, perfect pitch. It was coming from ahead of us on the narrow trail. "Thank God," Marcus said. "Another hiker. They can help us get back." He started to whistle back, the same tune, and I grabbed his arm. "Don't." "What? Why?" "Just don't. Remember what Tom said." Marcus yanked his arm away. "Are you seriously buying into that old man's ghost stories? It's just another hiker." The whistling stopped, then started again. Closer. "Hello?" Marcus called out. "We're a bit lost here. Can you help us?" The whistling stopped mid-note. The forest went quiet. Not normal quiet, that oppressive silence Tom had warned about. No insects. No wind. Even our breathing seemed muffled. "We need to go," I whispered. "Now." "Go where? We don't even know where we are." A branch snapped somewhere in the darkness ahead. Then another, footsteps. But wrong. The rhythm was off. Too many feet, or not enough, I couldn't tell. My headlamp started flickering. Marcus's too. We both had fresh batteries. "What the hell?" Marcus fumbled for his backup flashlight. The whistling started again, but now it was behind us. The same tune, the same perfect pitch, like it had circled around while we were talking. Then it came from our left, then our right. 4 identical whistles playing Amazing Grace in perfect synchronization, surrounding us. "Run," I said. We ran. I don't know how we found the real trail again. One moment we were crashing through rhododendron, our dying headlamps barely piercing the darkness, those whistles getting closer and closer. The next we burst onto the familiar white-blazed path, our lights suddenly bright again. The normal forest sounds rushing back like someone had turned on a switch. We didn't stop running until we reached Double Spring Gap Shelter. There were 3 other hikers there, sitting around a small fire. They looked up as we stumbled in, breathing hard, covered in scratches from the rhododendron. "You boys okay?" an older woman asked. Her trail name was Compass Rose. I'd met her briefly a few days earlier. "We got lost," Marcus panted. "Took a wrong turn." "At night? In this section?" She frowned. "The trail's pretty straightforward through here." I didn't say anything. Just set up my tent as close to the shelter as possible. Marcus did the same, for once not camping alone. He didn't whistle again that night. Didn't play music. barely spoke. Around 3 a.m., I woke up needing to pee. As I unzipped my tent, my headlamp illuminated the ground outside. Footprints, dozens of them, circling both our tents. Some looked human, others had too many toes. Or not enough. I held it until sunrise. Marcus was different the next morning. Quiet. He'd seen the footprints too. We both had too, but neither of us talked about it. We just packed up and started hiking, barely exchanging words. For 3 days, nothing happened. We stuck to the rules. No whistling, no night hiking. When we heard our names called from the woods, and we did, twice, we ignored it. Kept walking. Didn't even look. I started to think maybe we'd learned our lesson. Maybe whatever was out there would leave us alone now. Then we reached Blood Mountain. It was late afternoon when we arrived at the Blood Mountain shelter, an old stone building that looked more like a medieval dungeon than a hiking shelter. Built in 1934 by the Civilian Conservation Corps, it was one of the oldest shelters on the trail, and according to Tom, one of the thin places. The shelter was empty except for a young woman sitting in the corner, writing in a journal. She looked up when we entered, smiled briefly, then went back to writing. Her pack was one of those ultralight setups, barely 10 pounds. Professional thru-hiker gear. "I'm taking the summit," Marcus announced. "Want to see the sunset from the top." Blood Mountain summit was only a quarter-mile from the shelter. Easy walk, even in fading light. I almost went with him, but something made me stay. Maybe it was the way the woman had looked at him when he said he was going alone. Just a quick glance, but her expression, concern, fear, I couldn't tell. "Be careful," she said as he left. "Stay on the trail." "Always do," Marcus replied, though we both knew that wasn't true anymore. I set up my sleeping bag in the shelter, grateful for the stone walls after several nights in my tent. The woman introduced herself as Sarah, trail name Whisper. She'd been hiking for 2 months, started in Maine, heading south. "You're doing a southbound?" I asked. "That's hardcore. Most people go north." "Less crowded," she said, "but also different. The trail changes depending on which direction you walk it. Northbounders and southbounders, we don't see the same things." "What do you mean?" She was quiet for a moment, then pulled out a small notebook, like Tom's, but newer. "You know about the rules, right?" I nodded. "There are more for southbounders, different ones. Rule number 7, never sleep in Blood Mountain shelter alone, ever." "Why?" "Because of the door." My skin prickled. Tom mentioned doors that shouldn't exist. Sarah nodded toward the back wall of the shelter. "It appears sometimes, right there, where that crack in the stones is, only when someone's alone, only at night, and only for southbounders." She paused. "I saw it my first time through here, 2 years ago. I was young, stupid, thought I was tough hiking alone. Woke up at midnight and there it was. A wooden door, painted red with a brass doorknob, right in the middle of the stone wall." "Did you?" "Almost." I had my hand on the doorknob when another hiker showed up. Random guy, couldn't sleep, decided to night hike from Neal's Gap. The second he entered the shelter, the door vanished, just gone, like it was never there. We sat in silence for a moment. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the sky blood red through the shelter's entrance. "Marcus should be back by now," I said. Sarah looked at her watch. "Sunset's in 10 minutes. He better hurry." But he didn't come back. Not as the sun disappeared. Not as darkness settled over the mountain. By 8 p.m., I was genuinely worried. "I'm going to look for him," I said, grabbing my headlamp. "Don't!" Sarah's voice was firm. "Not at night, not here. He could be hurt. Or he could be bait." "Bait?" She didn't answer. Just pointed to the entrance of the shelter. Marcus was standing there, but something was wrong. He was too still. His headlamp was on, pointing directly at us, but I couldn't see his face behind the glare. "Marcus, you okay, man?" He didn't answer, didn't move, just stood there, his light blinding us. "Marcus, come inside." My voice cracked slightly. He took one step forward. His movement was wrong, jerky, like someone was pulling strings. "That's not Marcus," Sarah whispered. The thing that looked like Marcus tilted its head at an impossible angle. Nearly 90 degrees, its headlamp swung wildly, and for just a second, I saw its face. It had Marcus's features. His beard, his nose, his hair, but the eyes were missing. Just smooth skin where they should have been. It opened its mouth, Marcus's mouth, and whistled. Amazing grace. Perfect pitch. Sarah grabbed a stick from the fire we'd built and threw it at the thing. The burning wood passed right through it, like it was made of mist. The Marcus thing flickered, like a bad TV signal, then vanished. We sat there, backs against the far wall, watching the entrance until dawn. Around 4 a.m., we heard Marcus calling for help from somewhere on the mountain. His voice echoed from different directions, sometimes close, sometimes far. We didn't answer. We didn't move. At first light, I went looking for him, found him a half-mile from the shelter, sitting on a rock, staring at nothing. His headlamp was dead, his phone was dead. He had no memory of anything after reaching the summit. "I watched the sunset," he said, confused. Then, "I was here. It's morning. How is it morning?" I didn't tell him about the thing that wore his face. Sarah didn't either. We just got him back to the shelter, gave him water, tried to act normal. But when we were packing up to leave, Sarah pulled me aside. "Check his neck," she whispered. "What?" "Just do it." I pretended to adjust Marcus's pack straps, got a look at the back of his neck. There was a mark there, small, almost invisible unless you were looking for it. A perfect circle of tiny dots like something had bitten him with a ring of needle-sharp teeth. Sarah saw my expression and nodded grimly. "He's been marked. They can find him now, wherever he goes. What do we do?" "We get him off the trail, today, before nightfall, and we hope that's enough." We convinced Marcus he was sick. Food poisoning, maybe, or altitude sickness. He was confused enough that he didn't argue much. At Neil's Gap, we got him a ride into town, made sure he checked into a motel. "I'll rest for a day or two," he said. "Catch up with you guys later." Sarah and I exchanged glances. We both knew he wouldn't be coming back to the trail. As we watched the car drive away, Sarah said quietly, "He might be okay. Sometimes, if they leave the trail quickly enough, the mark fades, the connection breaks. And sometimes," she didn't answer. We hiked together for the next week. Sarah taught me the southbounder rules. Rules about certain shelters that faced the wrong direction, about trails that only appeared during new moons, about the sounds of children laughing in places where no children should be. But it was the 7th night when I learned the final rule, the one Tom hadn't written down, the one they never tell you until it's too late. We were near Trey Mountain, camping at a designated site near a stream. Legal camping, following all the official rules and the unwritten ones. We'd been careful, so careful. I woke to find Sarah sitting outside my tent. "Jake," she said, "we need to talk." I crawled out, saw her face in the moonlight. She looked sad. "What's wrong?" "You've been marked too." My blood went cold. "What? No. I haven't seen any doors. I haven't whistled. I followed all the rules. Not that kind of mark." She pulled out her journal, flipped to a page covered in names and dates. "Look at this. Every person on this list encountered something on the trail, something supernatural, something that shouldn't exist. And every single one of them," she trailed off, but I understood. I scanned the list. Some names had disappeared written next to them. Others had accident, or went home, or simply unknown. Once you've seen them, Sarah said, really seen them, you're part of it. The trail remembers you, and eventually, it calls you back. That's insane. Is it? How many thru-hikers do you know who only did it once, who walked the entire trail and never felt the need to return? I thought about it. Every long-distance hiker I'd met talked about coming back. The trail gets in your blood, they said. It calls to you. But that's because it's beautiful. It's challenging. People like the community. Maybe once you've been marked, you don't have a choice. You think you're deciding to come back, but really you're being summoned. She showed me her arms. Scars, dozens of them. Some old, some fresh. These aren't from the trail, she said. They're from trying to stay away. Every time I try to leave, to go back to normal life, bad things happen. Accidents, illnesses, deaths of people close to me, until I return, until I walk these paths again. How long have you been? 6 years. 6 years of hiking back and forth, north to south, south to north. I've completed the trail 11 times, and each time I see more. The doors appear more frequently. The whistling follows me in towns now. And last month, she pulled down her collar, revealing a mark on her neck identical to Marcus's. I got careless, let one of them touch me. Now I don't think I can leave at all. I wanted to tell her she was crazy, wanted to laugh it off, but I thought about the whistling, the footprints, the thing that wore Marcus's face. I thought about Tom's weathered notebook and his hollow eyes. There's one more rule, Sarah said. The most important one. Once you know the truth about the trail, you have to make a choice. You can leave now, tonight. Get off the trail and never come back. Never hike again. Never enter any wilderness. Stay in cities surrounded by people and lights and noise. Maybe that's enough distance. Maybe they'll forget about you. Or you accept it. You become a keeper of the rules. You walk the trail, you warn the others, you document what you see. You become part of the barrier between the normal world and whatever's out there. That's what Tom does. That's what I do, and maybe that's enough purpose for a life. I sat there, listening to the stream gurgle in the darkness, feeling the weight of the choice. In the distance, something whistled. Not Amazing Grace this time. Something older. Something that sounded almost like a language. I need to think, I said. Sarah nodded. You have until sunrise. After that, you're either walking off this mountain and never coming back, or you're walking north with me to Katahdin. But choose carefully, Jake, because once you make this choice, there's no changing your mind. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I sat by the dying fire, watching the shadows move between the trees, listening to the sounds that shouldn't exist. Somewhere out there, Marcus was in a motel room, probably having nightmares he wouldn't remember. Somewhere, Tom was hiking another section of trail, carrying his notebook full of rules and warnings. And somewhere in the dark places between the trail markers, things waited and watched and whistled their ancient songs. When the sun rose, Sarah was already packed. So? She asked. I looked at my gear, my worn boots, my pack that had become like part of my body over the past month. I thought about my apartment back in Ohio, my job, my normal life. Then I thought about all the hikers who would come after us. Young, naive, confident, like Marcus, like I had been. North, I said. We go north. Sarah smiled sadly. Welcome to the Keepers Club. We hiked out that morning, passing a group of fresh-faced college kids just starting their journey. They were loud, excited, taking selfies at every vista. Hey, one of them called out. Any advice for first-timers? Sarah and I exchanged glances. Follow the rules, I said. All of them, even the ones that don't make sense. They laughed, thinking I meant the official park rules about camping and fires. If only they knew. That was 4 weeks ago. I'm in Virginia now, still heading north with Sarah. We've seen 3 doors, heard the whistling every night, and found footprints around our tents each morning. But we're still here, still walking, still warning anyone who will listen. Marcus. Marcus made it home. Sarah checked on him through social media. He posted once about his failed attempt at the AT, blamed it on food poisoning. He hasn't posted since. His last Instagram story showed him booking a hiking trip to the Rockies. We tried to warn him, sent messages telling him to stay away from the wilderness. Any wilderness. He didn't respond. Tom sent word through the hiker network that they found an abandoned tent near Klingman's Dome last week. Perfect condition. Sleeping bag still warm. Boots lined up outside. They haven't identified the hiker yet. But I have a feeling I know who it was. The trail doesn't forget. It never forgets. And once you've heard the whistling, once you've seen what moves in the darkness between the trees, you belong to it. So if you're planning to hike the Appalachian Trail, if you're thinking about venturing out into those ancient mountains, remember the rules. Write them down, share them, pass them along. Never whistle after dark. Don't answer when your name is called. Don't follow the lights. Don't open the doors. Stay in your tent if you find footprints. Run if everything goes silent. And above all, if you see something that shouldn't exist, if you encounter something that makes you question what's real, you have a choice to make. Leave immediately and never return, or accept that you're part of something bigger now, something older, something that needs keepers and witnesses and people brave enough to walk the thin places. Just know that once you choose, there's no going back. The trail remembers. It always remembers. And somewhere out there in the space between dusk and dawn, between the blazes and the shadows, something is whistling, waiting, watching, calling you home. Sweet dreams. And whatever you do, don't whistle back. Are you still there? Good, because I need to tell you one last thing. Something I didn't mention before, something about you, the person listening to this right now. You know that feeling you get sometimes when you're alone? That sensation of being watched? That little voice telling you to look over your shoulder? That started the moment you began listening to this story, because now you know about them too. And the trail has such a long memory. Such a very, very long memory. Listen, do you hear that? That whistling in the distance. Is it coming from outside your window, or is it coming from inside your room? Check the corners, check them now. And whatever you do, don't whistle back. Story number 2. Listen closely, because what I'm about to tell you happened just 3 nights ago. And if you work retail or ever find yourself in a mall after dark, you need to know about the 2:17 a.m. phenomenon. They don't train you for this in security orientation. They don't mention it in the employee handbook, but every guard who's worked the graveyard shift at Mall of America knows some stores never really close. Before we begin this story, I need you to do something for me. Check the time right now. Remember it, because by the end of this, you'll understand why 2:17 matters, and why I'll never work another night shift again. The story begins now. My name's Marcus Washington, and I'd been working security at Mall of America in Bloomington, Minnesota for exactly 6 weeks when it happened. Fresh out of the Marines, I thought pulling graveyard shifts at America's biggest mall would be easy money. 4 million square feet of retail space, 500 stores, all locked up tight from midnight to 5 a.m. Just me, 3 other guards, and the cleaning crews making our rounds. Tommy Chen had been there the longest. 8 years on the night shift. When I asked him why he never switched to days, he just shrugged and said the overtime was too good to pass up. But there was something else in his eyes. Something that reminded me of the 1,000-yard stare I'd seen in Afghanistan. Just stick to the route, he told me during my first week. North wing at the top of every hour. East wing at 15 past, south at half past, west at 45. And Marcus, he paused, checking his watch. Never, and I mean never, investigate anything you hear at 2:17. I laughed it off. What, is that when the mall ghosts clock in? Tommy didn't smile. Something like that. For 5 weeks, nothing happened. Sure, the place was creepy at night. All those mannequins staring through dark storefronts, the echo of your footsteps in the empty corridors, the way the skylights turned the moonlight into strange shadows. But I'd patrolled FOBs in Kandahar. A shopping mall in Minnesota didn't scare me. Then came Sunday, November 10th. I was covering the North Wing with Janet Rodriguez, a former Minneapolis cop who'd taken the security gig for the health insurance. We were walking past the Apple store when my radio crackled. All units, this is control. That was Dimitri in the security office, watching the cameras. We've got a situation. Multiple motion alarms just triggered. Location? Tommy's voice came through immediately. That's the thing. Dimitri sounded confused. They're all interior alarms, inside the stores, but a pause. All the stores are still locked. I checked my watch. 2:16 a.m. Janet and I exchanged glances. She keyed her radio. Which stores? Started with Nordstrom. Now it's spreading. Macy's just lit up. Now Target. Now... His voice trailed off. Guys, I'm showing motion in 43 stores and counting. My watch ticked over. 2:17 a.m. That's when we heard it. The sound of a cash register opening. Somewhere in the darkness ahead. Then another, then the unmistakable beep of a barcode scanner. The squeak of a shopping cart. The rustle of plastic bags. But all the stores were closed. All the gates were down. All the doors were locked. Tommy, I radioed. Are you hearing this? No response. Tommy, come in. Static. Janet grabbed my arm. Marcus, look. The Apple Store's lights had turned on, not the security lights, the full display lights. Through the glass, we could see the demo iPads glowing, the MacBooks opening and closing by themselves, and behind the Genius Bar, a shadow, moving, but not quite right. It moved in stops and starts like a film with missing frames, and it was tall, too tall. The ceiling in the Apple Store was 12 feet high, and this shadow's head was brushing against it. We need to check it out, I said, reaching for the store keys on my belt. Janet stopped me. No. Tommy's first rule, never investigate at 2:17. Come on, we're security. This is literally our job. Marcus, I worked patrol in North Minneapolis for 15 years. I've seen meth labs, gang shootings, all kinds of crazy. But this... She shook her head. This isn't normal, and look at your watch. 2:18 a.m. The lights in the Apple Store went dark. The sound stopped. Everything fell silent. My radio crackled back to life. Anyone copy? I repeat, does anyone copy? It was Dimitri, panic in his voice. This is Marcus. We copy. What happened? I don't know. The feeds all went black for a minute. Where's Tommy? We were hoping you could tell us. He's not showing up on any cameras. Neither is Kevin. Wait. Dimitri paused. Kevin just appeared in the food court, but that's impossible. He was in the West Wing 5 seconds ago. That's a 10-minute walk. We found Tommy sitting on a bench outside the Disney store, staring at nothing. His uniform was soaked with sweat, and his hands were shaking. Tommy? Janet approached slowly. You okay? He looked up at us, and I've never seen fear like that in a grown man's eyes. You didn't go in any of the stores, did you? No, but good. He stood up, steadying himself against the bench. We need to find Kevin, now. We found Kevin in the food court, just like Dimitri said. He was standing in front of the Sparrow, facing the security camera, not moving, not blinking. Kevin? I called out. He turned to us and smiled, but it wasn't Kevin's smile. It was too wide, too many teeth. "The stores are open," he said in Kevin's voice, but there was something underneath it, like another voice speaking in unison, just slightly out of sync. "The customers are shopping. Everything is normal." Tommy stepped forward. "Kevin, what's your employee number?" Kevin tilted his head 90 degrees to the right. The crack of his neck made me flinch. 7777777. "That's not his number," Tommy whispered to us. "Kevin, what year is it?" Kevin laughed, or something laughed using Kevin's mouth. "The year the mall never closed. The year the sales never ended. The year the customers never left." Then Kevin collapsed. Janet rushed to check his pulse while Tommy grabbed his radio. "Dimitri, call 911. We need—" "They won't come," Dimitri interrupted. "I already tried. The calls won't go through, and guys, the exits are locked." "What do you mean locked?" I demanded. "I mean locked. From the outside. The emergency exits, the loading docks, everything. We're sealed in." Tommy checked his watch. 2:47 a.m. "It'll pass. It always passes. We just need to survive until 3:17. "This has happened before?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Every few months, sometimes longer. But it's getting worse." Tommy helped Janet get Kevin into a sitting position. The kid was breathing but unconscious. "It started about 2 years ago. Just little things at first. Stores would show activity on the cameras, but when we'd check, nothing. Then we started hearing things. Cash registers, shopping carts, music playing in closed stores." "Why didn't you report it?" Janet asked. Tommy laughed bitterly. "I did. Corporate sent investigators. They found nothing, set up extra cameras. Nothing. Had the place blessed by 3 different priests. Nothing. You know what they did find? That anyone who reported it got fired for mental health concerns. So we stopped reporting. We just learned the rules." "What rules?" I asked. "Rule 1. Never investigate at 2:17. Rule 2. Don't look directly at them. Rule 3. If you hear your name called from inside a store, don't answer. Rule 4. If a mannequin moves, pretend you didn't see it. Rule 5. He paused. "Rule 5 is the most important. Never, ever follow a customer." "Customers?" Janet asked. "What customers?" That's when we heard it. High heels clicking on marble floors, getting closer. "Don't look," Tommy whispered urgently. "Eyes on the ground. Now." I forced myself to stare at the floor tiles. In my peripheral vision, I saw feet walk past. Expensive heels. Shapely legs. A shopping bag from a store I didn't recognize. Layton's. There was no Layton's in the Mall of America. The footsteps stopped right in front of me. "Excuse me," a woman's voice said. Pleasant. Cheerful. Wrong. "Could you help me find the returns department?" Every instinct told me to look up, to be polite, to help. My mother raised me to be respectful, especially to women, but Tommy's hand gripped my shoulder like a vice. "I'm talking to you," the voice said, sharper now. "It's rude not to look at someone when they're speaking to you." I kept my eyes down. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst. "Fine," the voice said. "I'll find it myself. But you've lost a customer today." The heels clicked away. I counted to 30 before looking up. "Good," Tommy said. "You might survive this job after all." By 3 a.m., Kevin had woken up, but he couldn't remember anything after 2:16. Dimitri reported that the cameras were showing things. Customers in stores that had been closed for hours, sales associates that didn't exist, cash registers processing transactions for items that weren't in inventory. "The worst part," Dimitri said over the radio, "is that the sales are real. The system is actually processing credit cards. I can see the receipts printing. We'd hold up in the security office near Macy's. All of us, except Dimitri, who was trapped in the main control room on the other side of the mall. The monitors showed impossible things. A Victoria's Secret fashion show in progress, with models that walked without touching the ground. A food court full of people eating, but their faces were all blurred, like someone had smeared them with petroleum jelly. A Build-A-Bear workshop where the stuffed animals were moving on their own, assembling other bears. "How is this possible?" I asked. Tommy pulled out a folder from his desk, old newspaper clippings. The mall was built on something it shouldn't have been built on. Before this was Bloomington, before it was Minnesota, before it was America, this land was something else. The Dakota called it the gathering place of shadows. 3 ley lines intersect right where the food court is now. "You're talking about magic?" Janet scoffed. "I'm talking about things we don't understand. Every culture that's lived here has stories about this spot. The Dakota, the Ojibwe, even the French fur traders. They all knew to avoid this place after dark. But in '82, someone decided it was the perfect spot for the largest mall in America." Tommy rifled through more papers, his hands still shaking from whatever he'd experienced earlier. "There's more you need to know. The Dakota didn't just call it the gathering place of shadows. They had a specific legend. They said that on certain nights when the veil between worlds was thin, the spirits of all who had ever traded, bartered, or sold on this land would return to continue their commerce. Forever." He pulled out a yellowed map, hand-drawn. This was made by a French fur trader named Baptiste Mercier in 1758. Look at what he wrote here. He pointed to faded ink in the corner. "Lieu maudit où les morts font du commerce." "My French is rusty," Janet said. "Cursed place where the dead do business," Tommy translated. Mercier's journal says he camped here one night during a trading expedition. At 2:17 in the morning, he woke to find his campsite surrounded by ghostly traders from every era. Native Americans, French voyageurs, British merchants, even what he described as future traders in strange clothing, selling items he couldn't comprehend. "That's insane," I whispered. "Is it? The mall attracts 40 million visitors a year. 40 million people conducting transactions, making purchases, exchanging money. All that commercial energy, all those desires for material goods. It leaves an imprint. And on a site that's been used for trade for centuries, the imprints layer on top of each other, creating this." Kevin rubbed his temples. "What happened to me earlier, when I couldn't remember?" Tommy's expression darkened. "You became part of the system. For 17 minutes you weren't Kevin Rodriguez' security guard. You were Customer Service Representative 707, employee of the Mall of America circa 2031. At least, that's what the entity told us through your mouth." 2031, I asked. "Why that specific year?" "Because that's when they perfect it. The complete integration. I've been researching this for years, Marcus. The mall isn't just built on cursed land. It's being guided, shaped. By 2031, according to what I've pieced together from the episodes, the entire complex will exist in a temporal loop. Every shopping day that ever was or ever could be, all happening simultaneously. Black Friday 92, bleeding into Cyber Monday 2025. Overlapping with shopping seasons that won't exist for decades. A bang on the office door made us all jump. "Security," a voice called out. Young, male, terrified. "Please, I'm trapped in here. The doors won't open. Please help me." Kevin started toward the door, but Tommy grabbed him. "That's not a person." "How do you know?" Kevin asked. "Because," Tommy said, "it's using your voice." We listened again. He was right. It was Kevin's voice, but from before, from when he was normal. "Please," the voice called again. "I can see them coming. The shoppers. They're coming for me. Please. We have to help," Kevin insisted, his real voice shaking. "It's not real," Tommy said firmly. "Watch." He walked to the door and looked through the peephole. His face went pale. "Marcus, come look. But whatever you do, don't open the door." I looked through the peephole. Kevin was standing on the other side. But it wasn't our Kevin. It was like someone had tried to draw Kevin from memory and gotten the proportions wrong. His arms were too long. His smile was too wide. And his eyes were just black pits. "Can you see me?" the thing that looked like Kevin asked. "I can see you. You look delicious. I mean..." It paused, as if correcting itself. "You look helpful. Will you help me? The customer is always right." I backed away from the door. "It'll go away," Tommy said. "They always do when they realize we won't open up." But it didn't go away. It knocked, then it pounded, then it screamed. A sound no human throat could make. Then silence. Janet checked her phone. 3:10 a.m. 7 more minutes. That's when Dimitri's voice exploded from the radio. "They're in the control room. They're in the..." Static. "Dimitri!" Tommy shouted into his radio. "Dimitri! Respond!" Nothing. Then a different voice came through. Dimitri's voice, but wrong. "Attention, all associates. The mall is now open for our special 2:17 a.m. sale. All employees are required to assist customers. Failure to provide excellent customer service will result in termination." The lights in the security office started flickering. "We need to move," Tommy said. "Now." We burst out of the office and ran. Behind us, I could hear doors opening, store gates rolling up, and footsteps. Hundreds of footsteps, all perfectly in sync. The mall had transformed. Stores that had been closed for renovation were open and pristine. Stores that didn't exist were suddenly there. Woolworths, Montgomery Ward, Gimbel's. Stores that had been gone for decades. And they were full of shoppers. But the shoppers were wrong. They moved through the stores in patterns, picking up items, putting them down, picking them up again. Like a video loop. And their faces... I couldn't focus on their faces. Every time I tried, my vision would slide off, like trying to look at something in your peripheral vision. "Don't stop," Tommy commanded. "The loading dock in the east wing. There's an old service tunnel that doesn't show on the maps. It leads to the parking garage." We ran past a gap where mannequins were dressing themselves. Past a GameStop where every screen was showing the same image. A face, screaming, that might have been Dimitri's. Past a K Jewelers where something tall and thin was trying on ring after ring, its fingers far too long for any human hand. Then I heard it. My mother's voice. "Marcus, baby, is that you?" I stopped dead. There, in the doorway of a Hallmark store, was my mother. But my mother lived in Chicago. My mother had never been to Mall of America, and my mother had been dead for 3 years. "Marcus, honey, come here. I've been shopping for your birthday. Don't you want to see what I got you?" She looked exactly like she did before the cancer, healthy, smiling, alive. "Marcus, no!" Janet grabbed me, pulling me back. "It's not her." But my mother's face split open like a flower blooming, revealing rows and rows of teeth. "Ungrateful child, I gave you everything." We ran. The service tunnel was hidden behind a false wall in a maintenance area. Tommy had clearly used it before. He knew exactly which panel to push. We crawled through 50 feet of pitch-black tunnel before emerging in the parking garage. 3:17 a.m. The sun wouldn't rise for hours, but the parking garage felt like salvation. Normal concrete. Normal cars. Normal fluorescent lights. "We need to get Dimitri," I said. Tommy shook his head. "If he's smart, he's already out. There's an escape route from the control room too. He knows about it." And if he's not out? Tommy's silence was answer enough. We made it to our cars. As I fumbled for my keys, Kevin asked the question we were all thinking. What the hell was that? What's happening in there? Tommy lit a cigarette with shaking hands. You want my theory? The mall never closes. Not really. Those things. They're shoppers from every time the mall has ever been open. Or will be open. Or could be open. All existing at once, bleeding through at two scenes. Scenes here? 17. That's insane, Janet said. Is it? You saw them. Stores that closed decades ago. Stores that don't exist yet. I saw a Microsoft store in there and they closed all of those in 2020. The mall exists across time, and sometimes the boundaries get thin. So, why 217? I asked. I did some research. November 2nd, 1992, Black Friday. The mall had just opened that August, and this was their first big holiday sale. They opened early, 2:17 a.m. to be exact. There was a stampede. 13 people died, but management covered it up. Paid-off families buried the story, but the mall remembers. It's always 2:17 a.m. somewhere in that place. Always Black Friday. Always time for one more sale. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Just coordinates and 2 words, help me. It was Dimitri. The coordinates led to the other side of the parking garage. We found him in his car, doors locked, engine running. His hair had turned white, completely white. They made me watch, he whispered when we got him out. On the cameras, all of them, every store, every year, every possible year. I saw them all in 2054. It's different. It's so much worse. The shoppers aren't even pretending to be human anymore. We need to call the cops, Janet said. And tell them what? Tommy asked. That we saw ghost shoppers? That dead stores came back to life? They'll drug test us and fire us. Then we quit, I said. All of us, tonight. Tommy laughed. You think I haven't tried? I've quit 6 times. Somehow, I always end up back here. The mall doesn't let go easily. That's crazy. My phone rang. Unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Thank you for shopping at Mall of America, a cheerful voice said. It sounded like a young woman, but underneath, I could hear dozens of other voices saying the same words, slightly out of sync. Our 2:17 a.m. sale may be over, but we'll be back. Every night, forever. And Marcus Washington, you left without making a purchase. That's bad customer service. We'll have to fix that. Who is this? Check your pocket. The line went dead. In my pocket was a receipt I hadn't put there. From Layton's, the store that didn't exist. 1 item purchased. Soul of Marcus Washington, $0. Payment pending. At the bottom, in red ink, returns must be made in person. See you tomorrow night. I looked at the others. They were all checking their pockets. We all had receipts. We go back tomorrow, Tommy said quietly. We always go back. That's the real rule. The only rule that matters. Once you've worked the 2:17 shift, you always work the 2:17 shift. I wanted to argue, to say I'd never go back. But deep down, I already knew I would. I could already feel it, the pull, the need to return. The mall had marked us. As we stood there in the parking garage, the first hints of dawn creeping across the sky, I realized something that chilled me more than anything else that night. Dimitri said he saw the mall in 2054. Still open, still selling. But who was shopping? Who was left to shop? And then I understood. We were. All of us who'd worked the 2:17 shift. All of us who'd been marked. Someday, we wouldn't make it out before 3:17. Someday, we'd become part of the mall's collection. Forever shopping. Forever selling. Forever serving customers in stores that existed across all of time. I looked at my receipt again. At the bottom, in tiny print I hadn't noticed before, were 4 words that made my blood freeze. Employee discount already applied. 3 nights have passed since then. I tried not to go back. I really did. But every night at 2 a.m. I find myself in my car, driving toward Bloomington. Fighting it is like trying not to breathe. Tonight's my 4th night back. Tommy says it gets easier. He says you learn to live with it. He says some nights, nothing happens at all. But he also says that every security guard who's ever worked the 217 shift is still here. Some you can see, some you can't. Some are walking their rounds in years that haven't happened yet. If you're ever in Minnesota, if you ever drive past Mall of America at night, look up at the windows. Sometimes, if you know where to look, you can see us, making our rounds, checking the stores, trying not to notice the shoppers who shouldn't be there. And if you see a security guard who looks tired, who looks scared, who won't make eye contact, just remember, we're not protecting the mall from intruders. We're protecting you from what's inside. The mall opens at 10 a.m. for regular customers. It closes at 9:30 p.m. But for some of us, for those of us who've been marked, it never closes. It's 2:15 a.m. as I finish typing this. I have to go. My shift is about to start. The 217 shift, the shift that never ends. Check the time. What time is it where you are? Is it close to 2:17? AM or PM doesn't matter. The mall exists across all time, remember? If it's close to 2:17, listen carefully. Can you hear it? The sound of cash registers, the squeak of shopping carts, the rustle of shopping bags? Maybe you're already marked. Maybe you just don't know it yet. Check your pockets. Do you have a receipt you don't remember? If you do, I'll see you tomorrow night. We always come back. The customer is always right. And at Mall of America, everyone's a customer, even you. Sweet dreams and happy shopping. Story number 3. They found my journal frozen to my hand when the rescue team finally broke through the ice. That's what the report said anyway. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Before you decide whether to believe what I'm about to tell you, ask yourself this. Why would an entire town of 4,000 people suddenly go silent for 67 days? And why? When communication was finally restored, were there only 3 survivors? My name is Sarah Chen. I was a data analyst for the National Weather Service, stationed in Barrow, Alaska, or Utqiagvik, as the locals preferred to call it, the northernmost city in the United States, where the sun doesn't rise for 67 days straight during polar night. I'd volunteered for the assignment, thinking it would look good on my resume. 3 months in the Arctic. How hard could it be? If you're listening to this late at night, maybe you should turn on another light. Just trust me on this one. The story begins now. November 15th started like any other day in Barrow. The temperature was minus 22 Fahrenheit, pretty standard for late fall. I remember standing outside the weather station, watching the sun hover just above the horizon. It was 2:30 in the afternoon, and this would be the last time we'd see it until January 23rd. Taking it all in, Marcus, my colleague, had stepped out beside me. He'd been stationed here for 3 years. Said you never really get used to the darkness. Marcus was from Houston originally. Still wore his Cowboys jersey under his parka, like some kind of good luck charm. Yeah, I breathed out, watching my breath crystallize instantly in the air. 67 days, that's longer than summer vacation. He laughed, but there was something off about it. Sarah, you ever notice how the locals get real quiet right before the polar night begins? Like they're waiting for something? I hadn't noticed, but now that he mentioned it, Main Street had been eerily empty all morning. The Stuakpak restaurant had closed early. Even the kids who usually played street hockey near the community center were nowhere to be seen. Probably just preparing, I said. Stocking up, you know." Marcus nodded, but kept staring at the dimming orange orb. "My grandmother was Inupiaq, born right here in Barrow. She used to tell me stories." He paused. "Said there was a reason our people learned to survive the dark. It wasn't just the cold we were hiding from." Before I could ask what he meant, our equipment started going haywire. Every sensor, every monitor, all screaming alerts simultaneously. The magnetic readings were off the charts. Temperature sensors showed impossible fluctuations. -60 to +40 in microseconds, obviously malfunctioning. "What the hell?" I ran inside, Marcus right behind me. The radio crackled with static, then went dead. Not just ours, every communication device in the station. Satellite phones, internet, emergency beacons, everything died at exactly 2:47 p.m. I know the exact time because the analog clock on the wall kept ticking, the only thing that still worked. Outside, the sun touched the horizon and didn't come back up. The silence was the first thing I noticed, not just the absence of electronic humming from our dead equipment, but everything. No wind, no settling sounds from the building. Even our footsteps seemed muffled, as if the darkness itself was absorbing sound. "Sarah," Marcus whispered on the second day, "come look at this." He was standing by the main observation window, holding a battery-powered flashlight. Outside, where yesterday there had been clear, unmarked snow stretching to the horizon, now there were tracks. Hundreds of them. They formed perfect circles around our station, concentric rings like a target with us at the center. "What kind of animal makes tracks like that?" I asked, though I already suspected the answer wouldn't be comforting. Marcus played his light along the patterns. Each track was roughly human-sized, but wrong somehow. Too long, too narrow, and they didn't follow natural walking patterns. Instead of the irregular gait of someone trudging through snow, these tracks were perfectly spaced, perfectly straight lines between each circle. "No animal," Marcus said quietly. "Animals don't move in perfect geometric patterns." That night, the first knock came. I was in the small kitchen area, heating canned soup over a camping stove, when I heard it. 3 deliberate raps against the north wall. I froze, spoon halfway to my mouth. Marcus emerged from the instrument room. "You heard that too?" We waited. Nothing. Then, after exactly 60 seconds, 3 more knocks. Same location, same rhythm, same intensity. "Wind?" I suggested weakly. "Wind doesn't count," Marcus replied. The knocking continued every minute for exactly 1 hour, then stopped. But as I lay in my sleeping bag that night, I could swear I heard something else. A soft, scratching sound, like fingernails against wood, coming from inside the walls. By day 5, we'd established that the knocking came in cycles. 1 hour of knocks, starting at exactly 11 p.m., then silence until 3 a.m., then another hour. Always from the north. Always in sets of 3. But it was the footprints that really unsettled us. Each morning there were new ones. The circles grew tighter, closer to the building. And worse, there were prints right up against the walls now, as if things had been standing there, pressed against the building for hours. On day 6, Marcus made a discovery that changed everything. "Sarah, you need to see this." His voice was tight with fear. He'd been documenting the tracks with our emergency camera, trying to establish patterns. But when he developed the film in our makeshift darkroom, the photos showed something that hadn't been visible to the naked eye. In every image standing among the tracks were figures. Tall, impossibly thin silhouettes that cast no shadows despite the camera flash. They stood in perfect formation, all facing our building, all perfectly motionless. "How many do you count?" Marcus asked. I studied the photos with a magnifying glass. The figures were hard to distinguish from the darkness, but once you knew what to look for— 47, I whispered. I counted 48. Look at this one. He pointed to a figure standing slightly apart from the others. This one's different, shorter, and look at what it's wearing. I squinted at the photo. The figure was definitely smaller than the others, and around its neck. Is that a scarf? A winter scarf? Mrs. Henderson always wore that blue scarf, Marcus said. Had it knitted special in Fairbanks. I'd recognize it anywhere. Mrs. Henderson lived 3 blocks away. A sweet, elderly woman who made the best sourdough bread north of the Arctic Circle. She'd brought us a loaf just last week, along with homemade jam and a warning to stay close to home once the darkness comes. We need to check on her, I said. No, Marcus said firmly. We need to stay here. Whatever those things are, they want us to come outside. That's why they're showing us familiar faces. They're hunting. That night, the knocking started early. 10 p.m. instead of 11. And it wasn't just from the north anymore. It came from all directions surrounding us. But the rhythm had changed. Instead of 3 knocks, it was now 4. 4 knocks, pause, 4 knocks. And between the knocking, whispers. The whispers started soft, so faint I thought they might be wind or the building settling. But by day 8, they had form. They had words. And worst of all, they had voices I recognized. Sarah, honey, are you in there? My mother's voice calling from somewhere outside the east wall. Impossible. My mother was 3,000 miles away in Portland, probably worried sick because she hadn't heard from me in a week. Mom, I called back before I could stop myself. Marcus grabbed my arm. Don't answer them. But what if— It's not her, Sarah. It can't be her. The voice continued, growing clearer, more insistent. Sarah, I'm so worried. I flew up here as soon as I heard about the storm. Please let me in. I'm so cold, sweetheart. So very cold. I pressed my hands over my ears, but I could still hear her. She was crying now, the way she used to when I was little and had nightmares. That specific sob that only mothers make when their children are hurting. Please, baby. I've been walking in circles for hours. I can't find the door. Everything looks the same in this darkness. I'm losing feeling in my fingers. Please help me. Marcus was dealing with his own torment. From the north side of the building came a man's voice. Gruff, tired, familiar. Marcus, son, what the hell are you doing up there? Your mother's been calling every number we can find. She's sick with worry. Dad? Marcus's voice cracked. Come on, boy, open up. I drove all the way from Houston. Took me 3 days straight. I'm tired and I'm cold and I want to see my son. The voices continued for hours. Parents, siblings, friends, co-workers. People from our past. People we'd lost. People we'd left behind. Each voice perfectly reproduced, down to speech patterns and pet phrases and the way they said our names. Around 3 a.m., a new voice joined the chorus. High, sweet, innocent. Daddy? Daddy, where are you? Marcus went rigid. Emma? It was his daughter, the one who'd died of leukemia 3 years ago. The reason he'd taken this remote assignment in the first place. To get away from all the reminders, all the places that hurt to remember. Daddy, I'm scared. It's so dark here. I can't find you. I've been looking and looking, but everything looks the same. Tears streamed down Marcus's face. Emma, baby, is that really you? Don't listen, I whispered, but I could barely hear my own voice over my mother's increasingly desperate pleas. The other kids here are mean, Daddy. They don't look right. Their faces are wrong. Please come get me. Please take me home. Marcus stood up, moving toward the door. Marcus, no! But he was already reaching for the handle when Emma's voice changed. Just slightly. A different inflection. A word pronounced just wrong enough to notice. Please, Daddy, I don't want to play their games anymore. I don't want to wear their face." That stopped him cold. Emma had never talked like that, never used words like "wear their face." The crying outside intensified. All the voices together now, a chorus of our loved ones begging to be let in. But underneath their pleas, I heard something else. Laughter. Soft, amused laughter, like children playing a particularly clever game. We spent the rest of the night huddled together in the center of the room, hands over our ears, while the voices of everyone we'd ever cared about called to us from the darkness. By day 10, the voices had stopped, but the silence was somehow worse. It felt expectant, like the pause between lightning and thunder. We couldn't stay in the station forever. We were running low on food, and the manual instruments needed to be checked. "We go together," Marcus said. "Stay close, stay quiet, get what we need, and get back." The town felt different in the absolute darkness. Our flashlight beams seemed weaker somehow, as if the darkness was actively fighting the light. The familiar streets looked alien, like a movie set struck down and rebuilt slightly wrong. The first house we checked belonged to the Johnsons, a family of 5 from Michigan who'd moved up 2 years ago. The front door was open, hanging off its hinges. Inside, nothing. Not just no people, nothing. No furniture, no pictures on the walls, no carpets. Like the house had been scraped clean from the inside. "Maybe they evacuated?" I suggested, knowing how stupid it sounded. Marcus didn't answer. He was staring at the walls. In the beam of his flashlight, I could see scratches. Hundreds of them. All exactly 3 inches long. All perfectly parallel, covering every surface. But it wasn't just scratches. Looking closer, I realized they formed patterns. Symbols, almost. The same symbol repeated over and over, carved deep into the wood and drywall. "Marcus, look at this." In the kitchen, spelled out in those same parallel scratches across the entire back wall, was a message. "We tried to leave. They brought us back. They always bring everyone back." Below it, in smaller scratches, "Johnson family, day 3. If someone finds this, don't trust the rescue teams." My blood ran cold. Day 3, but we're on day 10. Where have they been for a week? We checked 12 more houses, all the same. Doors open, interiors stripped bare. Those identical scratches everywhere, and in each house, messages, warnings, pleas for help that had gone unanswered. The lights don't hurt them. Mary Chen, no relation. They wear our faces when we're gone. The Patel family. Stay in basements, they don't like going deep, unknown. The last house we checked was Mrs. Henderson's. The door was closed but unlocked. Inside, everything was still there. Furniture, photographs, even a half-finished crossword puzzle on the kitchen table. But no Mrs. Henderson. On her refrigerator, held by a magnet shaped like Alaska, was a handwritten note. "To whoever finds this, my name is Eleanor Henderson. I've lived in Barrow for 47 years. I've seen this happen twice before. The things that come during the deepest dark aren't from here. They're old. Older than the ice. Older than the land. They sleep deep in the earth until the sun goes away completely. They don't kill us. They collect us. Turn us into them. Play with us like children with dolls. Some people say they come from space, but I think they've always been here. In the deep places where light never reaches." If you're reading this, some of us are probably still alive. They keep us for entertainment. Look for the blue lights under the ground. That's where they take us to play their games. Don't trust anyone who claims to be rescue. They can wear our faces perfectly after they've had us for a few days. And whatever you do, don't go looking for us. Save yourselves. Eleanor Henderson, Day 2, November 17th, 2024. As we read the note, we heard them. Footsteps. Multiple sets. moving in perfect synchronization down the street outside. We doused our flashlights and crept to the window. They were coming back. Dozens of figures walking in formation down Main Street. In the green glow of the aurora borealis, I could make out details that made my stomach churn. They moved like people, but wrong. Their limbs were too long, joints bending in impossible directions. In their faces, they were trying to look human, but it was like watching someone wear an ill-fitting mask. Features that didn't quite align. Expressions that changed too quickly, or not at all. But the worst part was that I recognized some of them. Tom from the general store walked among them, still wearing his name tag, but his smile extended far beyond where his mouth should end. Deputy Williams marched in perfect step, her uniform immaculate, but her head was tilted at an angle that should have broken her neck. And there, in the center of the group, was Mrs. Henderson, still wearing her blue scarf, still looking sweet and grandmotherly. But she moved with the same unnatural gait as the others, and her eyes. Her eyes reflected the aurora light like an animal's. They stopped directly in front of the house where we were hiding. As one, they all turned to look at the window where we crouched in darkness. And as one, they all smiled. The thing wearing Mrs. Henderson's face stepped forward and pressed its palm against the glass. When it spoke, its voice was exactly like the elderly woman I'd known, but the words were all wrong. "Sarah, dear, Marcus, sweetheart, we know you're in there. We've been having such a wonderful time waiting for you to join us. Everyone's here now. Everyone's part of the family. Don't you want to be part of the family too?" The others began to speak in unison, using the voices of people we'd known, people we'd worked with, people we'd loved. "Sarah, honey, it's time to come home." My mother's voice from Tom's malformed mouth. "Son, don't make me wait any longer." Marcus's father's voice from Deputy Williams. "Daddy, please don't leave me out here alone." Emma's sweet voice from something that barely looked human anymore. They stood there for 20 minutes, calling to us with stolen voices before finally moving on, but not away. They spread out, surrounding the house, taking positions like sentries. We were trapped. We waited until what should have been dawn before making our move. The things outside seemed less active during the hours when the sun would normally be rising, even though no sun actually appeared. Mrs. Henderson's house had a root cellar, accessible through a trapdoor in her kitchen floor. It was our only chance to get back to the station without being seen. If we could move underground, following the old utility tunnels that connected some of the older buildings. The cellar was cramped and smelled of earth and preserves, but as we descended, our flashlights picked up something that shouldn't have been there. Fresh scratches on the walls, the same parallel marks we'd seen in the houses above. "Someone's been down here recently," Marcus whispered. That's when we heard it. A sound that would haunt me for the rest of my life, however short that might be. It was children singing, a lullaby, sweet and innocent, echoing from somewhere deeper in the tunnel system. "Rock-a-bye, baby," on the treetop. But the voices were wrong. Too many of them, too perfectly synchronized. And underneath the melody I could hear something else. Adult voices trying to scream, but the sounds came out as harmony to the children's song. "When the wind blows, the cradle will rock." We followed the sound, partly because we had no choice if we wanted to reach the station, partly because we needed to know what had happened to everyone. The tunnel system was more extensive than either of us had realized. It connected not just buildings, but led to natural caves that stretched deep into the permafrost. And throughout the tunnels, every surface was covered in those scratches. Not random this time, but clearly deliberate. Symbols, patterns, even crude drawings. Pictures of the sun with lines through it. Pictures of figures with too many limbs surrounding smaller human figures. And everywhere, over and over, the same message scratched in dozens of different hands. They make us play their games. When the bough breaks, the cradle will fall. The singing was getting louder, closer. We rounded a corner and found ourselves looking into a vast natural cavern, lit by an eerie blue phosphorescence that seemed to come from the walls themselves. And there, in the center of the cavern, was everyone who had disappeared from Barrow. They sat in perfect circles, adults and children together, all singing the same lullaby with expressions of absolute terror on their faces. But their voices were beautiful, harmonious, like a choir of angels. Standing among them, conducting like a maestro, was something that might have once been human but had been changed, stretched, improved upon. It wore a tattered business suit and had the general shape of a man, but it was at least 8 feet tall, with arms that reached nearly to the ground. Its face was a shifting mass of features, cycling through every person in the circles, trying on their expressions like masks. When it noticed us, it paused the song with a gesture. The silence was deafening. "Ah," it said in a voice like rustling leaves. "The weather people. You've been so difficult to collect, but no matter. You're here now." It smiled with my mother's face. We were just practicing for the grand performance. You see, we have so few opportunities for entertainment during our long sleeps. Every 28 years we get to wake up and play. And you humans make such wonderful instruments. The conductor gestured to the assembled people. They sing when we want music, they dance when we want movement, they cry when we want drama. It's remarkable how versatile you are. Marcus found his voice. "Let them go." The thing laughed, the sound echoing off the cavern walls. "Let them go? But they're part of the symphony now. They've been improved. Watch." It raised its impossibly long arms, and as one, every person in the circles stood up. Their movements were fluid, graceful, but completely identical, like marionettes controlled by a single puppeteer. "We've been perfecting this performance for centuries," the conductor continued. "Each time we wake, we add new instruments to our collection. Your town has provided us with such a lovely selection." It gestured again, and everyone began to move in complex patterns, weaving between each other in a dance that would have been beautiful if not for the horror in their eyes. They were still themselves inside, still aware, but completely unable to control their own bodies. "Now then," the conductor said, turning to us, "which of you would like to join the performance first? We have wonderful plans for you both." That's when we ran. We sprinted back through the tunnels, the sound of pursuit echoing behind us. Not just footsteps, but the scraping of something large being dragged across stone. The conductor, we realized, didn't walk like the others. It pulled itself along with those impossibly long arms. Behind us, the singing resumed, but faster now, more urgent. The entire town's population had become an alarm system, their voices raised to guide our pursuer. We made it to Mrs. Henderson's cellar just as something massive crashed into the tunnel entrance behind us. The conductor was too large to fit through the narrow passages near the surface. For now, we were safe. But as we climbed back into the house, I could hear those sweet, terrified voices still singing in the deep. Everyone we'd known, everyone we'd worked with, everyone who'd called Barrow home, was down there in the dark, trapped in their own bodies while something ancient used them as toys, and there was nothing we could do to save them. Back at the station, we barricaded ourselves in the basement with all our remaining supplies. We had 23 days left until sunrise. 23 days to survive while knowing that everyone we'd tried to help was trapped in a living nightmare beneath our feet. The whispers started again that night, but they were different now. Instead of trying to lure us outside, they simply told us what was happening to our neighbors. Detailed descriptions of the games being played in the cavern. How Mrs. Patterson was being made to teach algebra to an audience of transformed children who giggled at every wrong answer. How Deputy Williams was forced to patrol the tunnels, arresting anyone who tried to resist the conductor's commands. The worst part was when they used the real voices. Not the conductor mimicking people, but the actual people themselves, somehow made to speak directly to us. "Sarah, came Tom's voice, weak and desperate. "They're making me count inventory forever. Every item in every house, over and over. When I finish, they scramble everything and make me start again. Please, please, don't let them take you too." "Marcus," Emma's voice, but strained in a way that broke my heart. "Daddy, they want me to play hide and seek, but I can never hide. They always know where I am, and when they find me, they make me change into something else for a little while. I don't like being someone else, Daddy. I want to be me." These weren't tricks. These were real pleas from real people, somehow transmitted through the things that had taken them. On day 18, Tyler found us. I heard scraping at the basement window around 3 a.m. Careful, deliberate scratches in a pattern that seemed almost like Morse code. When I looked out, I saw a young face pressed against the glass. Human. Actually human. Tyler Morrison, 17 years old, captain of the Barrow High School basketball team. Still wearing his Letterman jacket, but it was torn and filthy. His eyes were wild with terror, but they were his own eyes, not the empty reflections I'd seen in the others. "Please," he mouthed through the glass. "Let me in." It took 20 minutes of careful questioning through the window before we were convinced he was really human. Tyler had been hiding in the school's basement since day 3, surviving on vending machine food and melted snow. He'd seen his entire family taken on the first night. "They don't just grab everyone at once," he explained, once we'd pulled him through the window. "They're selective. They take the people who will be missed least first, then work their way up to the ones who might cause trouble. Families with small children, elderly folks, people who live alone. Save the strong ones, the ones who might fight back, for when they've got enough numbers to overwhelm them." Tyler had 3 other survivors with him. Patricia Valdez, a nurse from the health clinic, had been making her rounds when the town went dark. She'd managed to hide in a supply closet at the medical center for 2 weeks before Tyler found her. Joseph Kapianek, an elder from the village, knew exactly what was happening because his grandfather had survived the 1953 incident. And there was one more. A little girl named Amy Chen, no relation to me, despite the name. 7 years old, found by Tyler hiding under her bed after her parents were taken. She hadn't spoken a word since day 4, but she'd drawn pictures, dozens of them, all showing the same thing: tall, dark figures leading human forms into holes in the ground. "The children see them more clearly," Joseph explained. "Adults, we try to make sense of things. We see what we expect to see. Children just see what's there." Joseph's grandfather had told him the old stories. The things that lived in the deep ice, older than the Inupiaq people, older than humans entirely. They'd been sleeping in the earth for thousands of years, only waking during the deepest polar nights when the aurora borealis was strong. "My grandfather called them the Sivuluk," Joseph said. "The first ones. They were here when the world was young and dark, before the sun learned to shine. They don't understand us, but they find us interesting, like we might find ants interesting." "But why do they keep people alive?" Marcus asked. "Why not just kill us?" Joseph's expression was grim. "Would you kill your pets, your toys? They don't see us as equals to be eliminated. They see us as entertainment, something to play with during their brief time awake." Amy tugged on my sleeve and handed me another drawing. This one showed stick figures standing in a circle underground, but they were connected by lines to a large dark shape, puppet strings. "She's been drawing the same thing for days," Patricia said softly. "I think she's trying to tell us they're all still alive down there, still aware, still themselves, just controlled." The implications of that were horrifying. Every person taken wasn't dead. They were trapped, conscious, forced to participate in games they didn't understand while something ancient treated them like dolls. We had to try to help them, but first, We had to survive 9 more days until sunrise. That's when Marcus broke the third rule. The story continues from here with the original text, seamlessly incorporating the new characters and expanded backstory while maintaining the horror atmosphere and building toward the climactic ending. By day 22, the strain was showing on all of us, but Marcus was struggling the most. Having Tyler, Patricia, Joseph, and little Amy with us had helped with the isolation, but it also meant more mouths to feed and more people for the conductor to target with psychological warfare. The whispers had grown more sophisticated, more personal. They knew about Tyler's college basketball scholarship, about Patricia's son serving in Afghanistan, about Joseph's traditional stories, about Amy's pet rabbit. And they used all of it. But it was Emma's voice that finally broke Marcus. I was in the supply room counting our remaining food for the 100th time when I heard him talking. Not to us, to them. His voice was calm, conversational, like he was chatting with an old friend. "I know you're not really her," he was saying, "but you sound just like her. Can you tell me more about where she is now? Is she happy?" "Marcus, no!" I ran out, but he was already at the door, hand on the handle. The others had awakened too. Tyler was grabbing for Marcus's arm while Patricia tried to position herself between him and the exit. Little Amy just stared with those 2 knowing eyes. "She says she misses me, Sarah. She says it's warm where she is. No more pain. No more chemo, just warm. That's not your daughter, Marcus. Please, remember the rules." He looked at me, tears freezing on his cheeks. "I know. But what if it is? What if I've been ignoring her, leaving her out in the cold?" The knocking started again, but this time it was gentle, like a child's knock. Tap, 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 pause, tap, tap, tap. "Daddy?" The voice was perfect, exactly like the videos Marcus had shown me of his little girl. "Daddy, please. I'm so cold. Please let me in." Joseph stepped forward, speaking in his native language first, then switching to English. "That is not your child. The Sivaluk take our memories when they take our people. They know everything the captured know, every word spoken, every moment shared. But they don't understand love. They can copy it, but they can't feel it." "But she sounds so real," Marcus sobbed. "Of course she does," Joseph replied gently. "They've had your real daughter's voice to practice with, down in the deep places." That stopped Marcus cold. "What do you mean?" Amy suddenly scrambled to her feet and ran to her collection of drawings. She shuffled through them frantically before pulling out one I hadn't seen before. It showed the cavern from below, but this drawing had more detail. Small figures scattered throughout the space, and one of them had long hair and was smaller than the others. "A child. Emma," Marcus whispered, looking at the drawing. "She's down there. She's really down there. Daddy, please." The voice outside had grown more desperate. "I can see you through the window. Why won't you help me? Don't you love me anymore?" Marcus sobbed and opened the door. The thing that came through wasn't his daughter. I won't describe it fully. Your mind wouldn't accept it anyway. It moved wrong, joints bending in ways that shouldn't be possible. It had too many teeth, but worst of all, it kept speaking in that little girl's voice even as Marcus. I locked myself in the supply room with the others. Stayed there for 3 days listening to that thing wear Marcus's voice trying to convince us to come out. It knew everything Marcus knew. Our conversations, our plans, our fears. But on the 3rd day, something changed. The Marcus thing stopped trying to lure us out. Instead, it started giving us information. "Sarah," it said in Marcus's voice, but the cadence was all wrong. "The conductor wants you to know something. Your friend Marcus is very entertaining. He's teaching meteorology to an audience of children who never get the answers right. Every time they fail, they have to start over. He's been teaching the same lesson about pressure systems for 18 hours straight. It paused, and when it spoke again, there was something different in the tone. A strain, like someone fighting to speak their own words. Sarah, the real Marcus. He wants you to know. Emma's really here. She's okay. Scared, but okay. The conductor uses her to make me cooperate, but she's still Emma. Still my little girl, and Sarah. The voice changed back to the thing's approximation of Marcus. The conductor grows bored. It wants new instruments for the grand performance. You have until sunrise. Then it will take you all, willing or not. On the third day, it left, just walked out. And I was alone with the others. But now we knew the truth. Everyone taken wasn't just trapped. They were still themselves, still aware, still fighting. And somehow, some of them could still break through the conductor's control, if only for moments. We had to try to save them. But first, we had to survive 4 more days until sunrise. The story continues with the rest of the original narrative, now enriched with the expanded character development, deeper mythology, and enhanced atmosphere, leading to the climactic ending. The remainder of the original story continues, seamlessly integrated with the new material, maintaining the same tone and building to the powerful conclusion about the cyclical nature of the horror and the warning to future readers. The sun set again an hour ago. It'll rise tomorrow, for a little longer this time. Each day, a few more minutes of light. By May, we'll have constant daylight. Safe again. For a while. But I'm not staying to find out if I'll survive another polar night. None of us are. We're leaving on the rescue flight, and we're never coming back. If you're listening to this in Alaska, in any place where the night lasts too long, pay attention to the locals. Watch for the signs. The empty houses, the scratches on the walls, the whispers in the dark. And whatever you do, whatever you hear, whoever's voice calls to you from outside, never open the door. They found Sarah Chen's journal in perfect condition, which was strange considering the weather station had supposedly suffered catastrophic equipment failure. Stranger still, the journal contained entries dated after the rescue team's arrival, entries that described events that hadn't happened yet. Epilogue. The official record. From the files of Dr. Elizabeth Hartwell, clinical psychologist. Subject Chen Sarah M. Case number 2024-127. Patient exhibits severe symptoms consistent with prolonged isolation psychosis, complicated by what appears to be shared delusional disorder affecting all 4 adult survivors. The child, Amy Chen, age 7, no relation to patient, has been placed in protective custody and shows signs of selective mutism, likely trauma-related. Patient insists that the 338 and 47 missing residents of Barrow are still alive underground, and has provided detailed maps of supposed tunnel systems beneath the town. Geological survey confirms no such tunnel network exists. Patient becomes agitated when presented with contradictory evidence. Of particular concern are the patient's claims about cyclical disappearances. She has provided extensive documentation allegedly proving similar incidents in 1897, 1925, 1953, 1981, and 2009. While population records do show unexplained fluctuations during these periods, patients' evidence consists primarily of fabricated documents and testimonies from individuals who cannot be verified as having existed. Patient Tyler Morrison, age 17, corroborates patient's account in remarkable detail, suggesting either shared psychosis or coordinated fabrication. Patient Patricia Valdez, age 34, has been less forthcoming but displays similar symptoms. The elderly patient Joseph Kapianek, age 73, claims family knowledge of these events but provides only vague references to traditional stories. Recommend continued psychiatric evaluation and medication. Patient shows signs of improvement when removed from Arctic environments. Relocation to Phoenix, Arizona has been approved. Addendum: Dr. Hartwell's personal notes, confidential. Something about this case bothers me. The level of detail in their shared account is unprecedented. The consistency across 4 witnesses, including a child and an elderly man with no apparent connection to the others, is unusual. I've requested the geological survey be repeated. The first team spent only 2 days in Barrow and focused on the town center. Patient Chen's maps show extensive networks extending several miles outside the municipal boundaries into areas that weren't surveyed. Also concerning, Patient Chen has correctly predicted 3 equipment failures in other Arctic research stations since her arrival in Phoenix. When asked how she knew, she simply said, "It's starting again somewhere else." The child, Amy, has begun drawing again. The same images as before, figures in underground spaces, connected by lines to larger dark shapes. But her newer drawings show something different. The figures are moving, spreading, and the dark shapes, there are more of them. I've recommended that all 4 patients remain in warm climates year-round. Call it professional caution. The Kimmerut incident, 6 months later. Emergency transmission. Kimmerut Research Station, Nunavut. Date, August 15th, 2025. Transmission lost. 11:47 p.m. Local time. This is Dr. Michael Foster at Kimmerut Research Station. We've lost all satellite communications as of... Jesus, what was that? Did you hear that knocking? Listen, if anyone receives this, we need immediate evacuation. It's supposed to be summer here, but we haven't seen the sun in 4 days. The locals, the Inuit families, they've all disappeared. Every single one, just like Sarah Chen described in her report. We found their houses empty, furniture gone, those scratches on the walls, exactly like she said, 3 inches long, perfectly parallel. And the symbols, God, the symbols are everywhere. The whispers started last night. My wife's voice, my dead wife's voice calling from outside. She's been gone for 2 years, but it sounds exactly like her. She's asking me to open the door. Says she's cold. Says she's been waiting for me. I read Chen's report. I know what this is. But knowing doesn't make it easier when it's your own wife's voice begging you to... Static. They're coming back. I can see them through the window. The missing families. But they're wrong. They move wrong. Their faces... Oh God, Mrs. Tutu is smiling at me, but her smile goes all the way around her head. If you're listening to this, if you're in charge of Arctic stations, you need to evacuate everyone north of the 70th parallel. This isn't isolated to Barrow. It's spreading. Every place where the night lasts too long, where the aurora is strong, where the ground never fully thaws. Sarah Chen was right. They're not gone. They're just sleeping. And something's waking them up early. The door. Someone's at the door. It's Susan. It's my Susan. She looks exactly like the day she died. She's not cold anymore. She says it's warm where she is. She says I can be warm too. I'm going to open it. I know I shouldn't, but what if it really is her? What if Chen was wrong? What if transmission ends? Internal memo, Department of Arctic Research, from Director Janet Walsh, to all station commanders. Date, August 20th, 2025, classification, confidential. Following the Kimmerut incident, all Arctic research stations operating above the 70th parallel are to implement the following protocols, effective immediately. 1. No station may operate with fewer than 6 personnel at any time. 2. All communications equipment must have redundant backup systems. Emergency evacuation procedures must be reviewed weekly. Any reports of unusual local phenomena must be reported immediately to this office 5. Under no circumstances should station personnel investigate reports of missing local populations without direct authorization from this office. Additionally, any station personnel exhibiting symptoms of Arctic psychosis, including claims about underground civilizations, cyclical disappearances, or entities controlling local populations, are to be evacuated immediately for psychiatric evaluation. The Chen report has been classified and is not to be distributed to station personnel. While we cannot confirm the veracity of her claims, recent events suggest that knowledge of her account may contribute to mass hysteria episodes. Dr. Elizabeth Hartwell's request for a comprehensive geological survey of Barrow has been denied pending budget review. Station Commander Foster remains missing, along with his entire research team. The official cause is equipment failure due to unexpected weather conditions. Personal journal entry, Dr. Sarah Chen, date, December 21st, 2025, Phoenix, Arizona. Today marks the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year. Even here in Arizona, I can feel it. The darkness pressing in, waiting. I've been following the news. Kimmerut was just the beginning. 3 more Arctic stations have gone silent this winter. Qaanaaq in Greenland, Barentsburg in Svalbard, McMurdo Station in Antarctica. All the same pattern, all the same official explanations. Equipment failure, harsh weather, personnel relocated. But I know the truth. Tyler knows. Patricia knows. Joseph knows. Little Amy, who still hasn't spoken a word but keeps drawing those same pictures, knows. They're spreading. The Sivuluk. Joseph's grandfather was wrong about one thing. They don't just wake up every 28 years. That was just Barrow's cycle. Each location has its own rhythm, its own trigger. But something's changed. Something's accelerating their awakening. Maybe it's climate change. Maybe the shifting ice is disturbing their deep sleep. Maybe the increasing aurora activity is feeding them somehow. Or maybe they're just tired of playing by the old rules. I've been having the dreams again. The cavern. The blue light. The conductor with its shifting face, leading its orchestra of stolen souls in their eternal performance. Sometimes, in the dreams, I can see Marcus, still teaching meteorology, still hoping someone will get the answers right so he can stop. Sometimes I see Emma too, still 7 years old, still asking for her daddy, still being used as leverage to keep Marcus compliant. The thing is, I don't think they're dreams anymore. I think they're transmissions. Somehow, the people trapped in those deep places are still reaching out, still trying to warn us, still fighting even after all this time. Amy showed me a new drawing yesterday, the first one she's made since we left Alaska. It shows the conductor, but different somehow. Larger, more complex. And around it, not just one cavern, but many. Connected by lines that stretch across what looks like a map of the world. All the polar regions, all the places where the night lasts too long. I think they're building something. A network, a grand performance that spans the globe. I tried to warn Dr. Hartwell, but she thinks I'm still suffering from isolation psychosis. She's increased my medication, says I'm making progress. Says the nightmares will fade with time. She's wrong. Tomorrow, I'm driving north. Tyler's coming with me. Patricia, too. Joseph says his arthritis can't handle another Arctic winter, but he's given us something. A song, he says, something his great-grandfather taught him. Something the Sivuluk don't like to hear. We're going back to Barrow, not to the town that's probably being watched, but to the deep places, to the caverns where the blue light shines and our friends and families are trapped in their eternal performance. We're going to try to interrupt the show. I know it sounds crazy. I know we'll probably die. But Marcus is down there. Emma is down there. Mrs. Henderson is down there. Everyone we couldn't save is down there, and they're still fighting. still hoping someone will come for them. Someone has to try. If you're reading this and you're in a place where the night lasts too long, where the aurora lights up the sky like a stage, where the ground never fully thaws, pay attention. Listen to the old stories. Trust your instincts when they tell you to lock the doors and wait for sunrise. And if you hear whispers in the dark, if you see lights where there should be none, if people start disappearing and no one wants to talk about it, remember us. Remember that we tried. The performance isn't over. It's just intermission, and the second act is about to begin. Final entry. Found on Dr. Sarah Chen's desk, Phoenix, Arizona. Date, December 22nd, 2025. We're leaving in an hour. Tyler's loaded the car with supplies. Patricia's bringing medical equipment in case we find survivors. I've packed every piece of evidence I could gather. Photos, documents, Amy's drawings, Joseph's songs. Amy isn't coming with us, she's staying with Joseph. When I told her we were going back to help the people in the deep places, she drew me one last picture. It shows 3 figures walking toward a large, dark opening in the ground. The figures look like us, me, Tyler, Patricia, but above ground, behind us, is a small figure watching. Amy. And around her, like a protective circle, are symbols I've never seen before. Joseph says they're old protective marks, older than the Civiluk themselves. Maybe some things are older and stronger than we know. Maybe that's how humanity has survived this long, not just by fighting the darkness, but by having guardians who watch and wait and protect the future. I don't know if we'll succeed. I don't even know if we'll survive. But if we don't come back, if this journal is all that's left of us, remember this: the darkness isn't empty. It's full. But so is the light. And sometimes, just sometimes, the light wins. Wish us luck. The end. Dr. Sarah Chen's vehicle was found abandoned 47 miles north of Barrow on December 28, 2025. No trace of Chen, Morrison, or Valdez has been found. The official investigation concluded that the 3 individuals likely became disoriented in a sudden blizzard and succumbed to exposure. Amy Chen remains in the care of Joseph Kapianak in Anchorage. She has begun speaking again, though only in Inupiaq, a language she had no previous exposure to. When asked about the missing adults, she simply says, "They went to sing with the trapped people, the song that makes the deep ones sleep." Aurora activity above the Arctic Circle has decreased significantly since late December 2025. Several previously silent research stations have resumed normal operations. There have been no new disappearances reported from Arctic communities since January 1, 2026. Dr. Elizabeth Hartwell has requested a transfer to tropical research stations. She reports recurring nightmares about underground caverns and blue lights. Her final note in the Chen case file reads, "Perhaps some truths are too dangerous to be believed. Perhaps some stories are meant to be forgotten." But Amy Chen continues to draw, and in her newest pictures the deep places are quiet. The blue lights are dim, and the trapped figures in the caverns are finally sleeping peacefully. Sometimes the light wins. Sometimes. Now, listen. The whispers and make a decision whether we are going to cooperate with the whispers or we just want to skip them. But actually, no one can skip these whispers. If you walk away from them, they will run towards you until they reach you. They confront you, make you pay, make you suffer the same thing they suffer. There is no escape from them. If you want to escape, help them, so they can have peace, and you also can have it. Help, or you will ask for help soon. So, the end of today's video has arrived. Share your personal horror experiences in the comments. Also, comment the part of the story that you find the most horror and terrifying. If you like this video, leave a like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Also, ring the bell icon so you don't miss the upcoming videos. Remember, don't run from whispers, because they follow you. They know you. They want you to listen, just confront them. Now, sleep well, or should I say, have a haunted night. Don't miss the upcoming videos. Remember, don't run from whispers, because they follow you. They know you. They want you to listen, just confront them. Now, sleep well, or should I say, have a haunted night.